decided that I am going to be reading 50 fascinating, fun, interesting facts about the medieval period. So let's get started. So, number 1. Feudalism ruled. Kings granted land to nobles in exchange for military service. Peasants worked the land and were bound to it, creating a rigid social hierarchy. 2. Peasants ate mostly bread. Rye bread was a staple, often consumed in large quantities, up to 2 to 3 pounds a day. Eels were currency. In England, eels were so abundant that they were used to pay rent and debts. Some records show thousands exchanged annually. Shoes showed status. Nobles wore long, painted shoes called pelanes. I apologize if there's any incorrect pronunciation of some of the words that are written here. And these were sometimes so exaggerated that they needed whalebone reinforcement. Trades were inherited. Guilds controlled professions, and sons typically followed their father's craft, ensuring continuity and control. Forks were taboo, considered effeminate. Forks were slow to catch on. Most people ate with fingers or knives. Toilets were primitive. Castles had garderobes, stone seats over vertical shafts that emptied into moats or pits. Bathing was rare. Though public bathhouses existed, many feared water-spread diseases, especially after the Black Death. Sumptuary laws dictated what people could wear based on class. Only nobility would wear certain fabrics or colours. Women wore chastity belts. While mostly myth, some examples exist, likely symbolic or theatrical, rather than practical. God, I'm glad I'm not live. Trial by combat. In parts of Germany, divorced couples could fight. The man stood in the pit with one arm tied while the woman used a club. Animals stood trial. Pigs, goats, and even insects were tried for crimes like murder or crop destruction, and some were executed. Archery was mandatory. In England, King Edward III required all men to practice archery weekly to ensure military readiness. Football was banned. Medieval football was chaotic and violent, often involving entire villages. Kings banned it to preserve order. Knights trained from childhood. Boys began as pages at age 7, became squires at 14, and were trained and were knighted around 21. Siege warfare was brutal. Castles were attacked with trebuchets, battering rams and starvation tactics. Defenders used boiling oil or tar. Criminals wore shame badges. Punishments included wearing masks or badges indicating their crime, like red tongues for liars. Corpse bleeding tests. Suspects were placed near murder victims. If the corpse bled, it was seen as divine proof of guilt. Execution was public. Hanging, beheadings, and burnings were public spectacles meant to deter crime. Dueling was formalized. Nobles settled disputes through regulated duels, often with seconds and strict rules of engagement. Whenever I hear these type of facts, I'm just extremely grateful to be alive today. Witch trials began late in medieval period. Most as neutral or misunderstood. Fun fact that I know, I find it interesting that Jacquetta of Luxembourg and Elizabeth Woodville were accused of being witches because of Elizabeth's marriage to Edward IV. It's crazy how easy it was back then to kind of just accuse someone of being a witch, and really there's nothing you could say about it because they claimed that they found a I think it was like a voodoo doll type of thing that they used to bewitch the king. But obviously anyone could have made that. But what can you really say in defense to that? It's crazy. But number 2 in his category, astrology guided medicine. Physicians consulted star charts to diagnose and treat illnesses, believing celestial bodies influenced health. Cats were burned, seen as demonic. Cats were killed in mass, especially black ones, contributing to rat infestations and plague spread. The Black Death killed millions. Between 1347 and 1351, the plague wiped out up to 60% of Europe's population, reshaping society. Bloodletting was common. Based on the four humours theory, doctors used leeches or knives to balance bodily fluids. Relics were prized. Churches displayed bones, hair, or clothing of saints believed to offer protection or healing. Demons caused illness. Mental illness was often seen as possession. Exorcisms were performed instead of medical treatment. Fairies and elves were feared, blamed for missing children, illness, and bad luck, especially in rural folklore. The church dictated life. From birth, baptism, to death, last rites, the church controlled spiritual and social norms. Pilgrimages were popular. People travelled to holy sites like Canterbury or Santiago de Compostela for penance or miracles. I apologise for my pronunciation of that last one. Universities emerged. Bologna in 1088, Oxford 1096, and Paris 1150 taught theology, law, and medicine. Books were handwritten. Monks in monasteries copied texts by hand, often taking years to complete a single manuscript. Illuminated manuscripts. These books featured gold leaf, vivid colours, and intricate designs, often religious in nature. Gothic architecture soared. Cathedrals like Notre Dame featured flying buttresses, pointed arches, and stained glass. Beowulf was written. This old English epic tells of a hero battling monsters and dragons, reflecting warrior culture. Roger Bacon predicted cars. In the 13th century, he imagined machines that could fly or move without animals. The Magna Carta was signed in 1215. English barons forced King John to sign this charter, limiting royal power and inspiring future democracies. Heraldry developed. Coats of arms identified noble families and were used in battle, tournaments, and legal documents. Music was sacred. Gregorian chants were sung in Latin, emphasizing spiritual reflection and unity. Chess spread to Europe. Originating in India, chess arrived via Islamic Spain and became a noble pastime. Crusades shaped Europe. These religious wars, 1096 to 1291, opened trade routes and cultural exchange between Europe and the Middle East. The Silk Road thrived. Goods like silk, spices, and paper flowed from China to Europe along with ideas and technologies. Islamic scholars preserved knowledge. Thinkers like Avicenna and Averroes translated Greek texts and advanced medicine, astronomy, and philosophy. Once again, I apologize for the horrible pronunciation. Vikings reached America. Leif Erikson landed in Newfoundland around 1000 AD, centuries before Columbus. Marco Polo travelled to China. His 13th century journey introduced Europeans to Chinese innovations like paper, money, and coal. Gunpowder arrived late. Brought from China, it revolutionized warfare with cannons and firearms in the 14th century. Plague came via trade routes. The Black Death spread from Asia to Europe through merchant ships and caravans. The Byzantine Empire endured, a continuation of Rome. It preserved classical knowledge and Christian traditions until 1453. The Mongol Empire expanded. Under Genghis Khan, it became the largest contiguous empire, facilitating global trade and communication. And the printing press ended the era. Gutenberg's invention in the 1440s democratized knowledge and sparked the Renaissance. Well, that's all 50 facts that I have here, and it just makes me very grateful to be alive in the period that I'm alive in now. I'm sure people in the future will probably look at this period and think that we're like the Middle Ages, you know what I mean? And yeah, but it's interesting. Well, thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that if the facts weren't interesting, they were at least relaxing and bored you to sleep. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.